Why is it important to get your mindset right? Why is it important to concentrate on the way that you think? A lot of people don't think that's important at all. I'll tell you a story. A number of years ago, I was about to go to San Diego on a seminar, and I mean that's the other side of the world for me, from the UK. And there was a guy I was talking to. He was a personal trainer. He was very fit and very successful in what he did. And he asked why I was going to San Diego. He said, "Are you going there for a holiday?" I said, "Well, sort of thing, but no, I'm really going for like a seminar on about mindset and the way to think and to how to improve your mind." And I thought this guy would understand that because he spent a lot of time in the gym. He worked on his body. He did what he needed to do to get his body into peak condition. And I thought that to do the same with your mind would be second nature to him. But he just didn't understand what I was talking about. He said, "Well, what's that all about? What are you going to learn?" I said, "Well, it's all about improving your mind, improving the way you think, and that has a direct effect on your life." But he just didn't understand that, and he would look really, really confused. And I was just as confused as well because I couldn't understand why he couldn't get that. So yeah, people spend a lot of time in the gym and getting fit, and they do all sorts of things like they take vitamins and health supplements and they walk and they run and they do all these things to keep the body fit, which of course is very, very important. But the mind just gets forgotten about. Everybody just forgets about the mind and don't, in a lot of cases, people don't realize that there's a gym for the mind. You can do the same things for the mind as you can do for the body. And in some ways, it's even more powerful in making the body fit, because if the mind's fit, then the body can follow it after that. So it's always fascinated me why it's like that. So, if there's something you want to change in your life, if you want to make your life better, if you're not happy with something, then it starts with what's in here. It doesn't start anywhere else. It doesn't start with things outside. It doesn't start with other people. It doesn't start with your circumstances. Everything starts with what's in your head. And it's so important to get that right. If you can master your mindset and master what's in your head, then you can do absolutely anything. So I'm doing this video today from the lobby of the Grand Hyatt Regency, Grand Hyatt in Houston, Texas. Why am I doing that in this lobby, might you ask? Well, I want to tell you my story in this video, and maybe it might make some sense to some of you to who's listening to this. So a hotel like this is a pretty nice hotel. It's not like a super 5-star hotel, but it's a pretty good 4-star hotel. It's nice. It's a nice place. You can see the glass lifts behind me. There's a pond on both sides of me full of koi carp. It is a nice hotel. Now, when I was a kid, I'd never stayed anywhere like this at all. When we used to go on holiday, we used to go to a place in the UK called Blackpool. And it was a seaside place. And we always used to stay in what we call bed and breakfast, which was not a hotel. It was like a house with like rooms where you stayed, and they were pretty cheap. And I used to see hotels that were what I call proper hotels, but I'd never stayed in one before. And I used to look at these things and think, oh, they're for rich people, they're for people with a lot more money. And my parents had never stayed in them before either. So what's my point about that? It's because my dad spent a lot of time working hard. He worked really, really hard, but he never made a lot of money. I mean, he did pretty well for the money he made, but he never made a lot of money, and he never really got past a certain point. And I knew in my mind deep down, even at that time, there must be more than that, but I didn't realize that at the time. So now, yeah, I worked on my mind, and I'm staying somewhere like this, but it's not a big thing. Anybody can do that. If you're out there looking at the hotel and thinking, oh, I'd love to stay in somewhere like that, yes, you can. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned. And people think that something is not for them. That's for rich people. That's for other people. That's for different people. I'm not like that. I'm an ordinary person. That's the wrong way to think, because you will automatically hold yourself back when you're thinking in those sort of ways. So I'll tell you about my story and how I grew up. when I was young, sort of 2, 3, 4 years old, I spent most of the time around with my parents and my family. Didn't really have too many friends. And then when it came to the age, I don't know, 3 or 4, when I could go to nursery school or kindergarten, I went there, and I didn't like it. I didn't feel comfortable away from my family, and it was my first experience of somebody there being nasty to me. And I still remember it quite clearly. I can't remember what it was over. I think in kindergarten we got like bottles of milk to drink on a morning, and I don't know. I picked somebody else's up, and this girl was really nasty to me because I picked her bottle of milk up. Um, and that stuck in my mind, and it was the first experience of somebody being nasty to me, and I automatically took a dislike to being in a nursery school. I had a choice then. I said I didn't want to go, so I wasn't allowed to go, and I was allowed not to go, should I say. So I didn't really go too often there. So then I had to start school, but you know, at school I never really fitted in, and there was maybe a number of reasons for that. One of them is that my hearing, I was pretty deaf, and when I got to 4 years old, I was given a hearing aid that was like this, by today's standard, it was like the size of a shoebox, and it had like a cord. And my left ear was supposed to be the only one that was deaf, and it had this big box about that big, and it was like a flesh color, and a big cord went in my ear, and it was uncomfortable. It didn't work very well, and of course, it immediately made me look different to everybody else. And because I hadn't had too many friends, and I'd had this sort of protected childhood in a protected environment, I didn't feel comfortable there. So I was immediately singled out as being different. And from that point onwards, I was seen all the way through the school as being different. Now, because I was deaf and I wore hearing aids, my mom decided that I should grow my hair over my ears. And in those days, nobody had the hair growing over the ears to, I did, mine was like that to hide the hearing aids. So I immediately looked different. And, I got a photograph from when I was in the um, second year junior school, like an elementary school. And my hair looked horrible. It looked like it was something I was wearing, not that was going out of my head. It felt uncomfortable. I didn't like it at all, but I would look different to everybody else. So yeah, I got bullied from school. I started to get bullied because I was a different one. I thought differently as well, and when I was a child, I had childhood asthma. Technically still have it, but it doesn't affect me. But because I had asthma, I was sort of protected by my family, my mom especially, and she always used to say, "Oh, you're no good at sports. You've got asthma. You can't play football. You can't do this. You can't do that." And I believed that. I believed because I had asthma, I can't do all of these things. And the school I went to was a very, very sports oriented school, and the area where I grew up was very sports oriented. And if you were no good at sport, then you were immediately seen as sort of an outcast in the school. And I was no good at sport, because I was told I wasn't physically able to do these things, and I believed it, and I couldn't do them, and I was no good at them. And because of that, I was singled out, and I was bullied all the time. I was bullied because I was no good at sport. I was bullied because I had hearing aids. I was bullied because I had a weird hairstyle. And then just to make it worse, when I went to like secondary school or high school, all the kids took school books to school in sports bags, and I was given a briefcase. To me, I thought, yeah, okay, that looks really good. I got a briefcase, it looks sophisticated. But no, I lived in a working class city. Somebody with a briefcase didn't look right. And I had this briefcase, and of course, that made me get bullied even more. So all the way through the school, I was no good at sport. I got bullied. I was okay at school, but I just had this idea in my head that I was just one of these people that were no good at things. I was never going to be good at anything, never good at sport. I was going to go through life being no good at things because that was my experience. I was told by my mom I was no good at sport, that it was too physical for me, and then all the kids at school were bullying me, making fun of me, calling me names. And of course, what happens is that your mindset is created by your experiences, and they were my experiences for until I got to sort of, I don't know, 16, 17, maybe even 18. They were my experiences, and I sort of settled, and down to the fact that yeah, I was not going to be good at things in life, and I didn't know what I was going to be doing. Well, eventually I left school, and I'm not quite sure what happened here. This is a defining point in my life. Something changed, and I don't know what it was, but because I wasn't subject to all of these influences, the bullying, the negative talk, and that sort of thing, um, this sort of went, and I started to think about other things, and I started to see things in life, other sides of life, and I became more enthusiastic about things, and I started to think about myself as being different, not being the person that I was at school, and I started to think, and I suppose I created a persona um, in my head, and I think everybody's heard of the saying, fake it till you make it. Well, that's exactly what I did. And my personality and the way I was started to change, mainly because of me thinking about being different, thinking about doing different things, thinking about the possibility. And I did. I changed in maybe 2 or 3 years. I completely changed the person I was. And the people that I went to school with definitely wouldn't recognize me at all now. And I became a lot more confident. I became a lot more able to stand up for myself. And in a funny sort of way, the bullying was a good training ground for that because it taught me to be strong. It taught me to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. It's taught me not to be scared of things. And uh, I built on that and changed the way that I was as a person. So, forwarding sort of 35, 40 years from there, did it make a difference? Yeah, it made a big difference. I've got 2 successful businesses now. I had a successful career for 20 years. I worked for the police for 20 years, and I spent a lot of years as a senior police trainer. I managed the prosecution department for about 6 years. Prosecution department dealt with everything from speeding to murder. At one point I had 200 staff. How did that happen? How did that happen from somebody who went to school, who had no confidence, who was bullied all the time? It's all about mindset. I changed my mindset. I changed the way that I thought, and I changed my life by doing that. And I discovered this by accident. I still don't really. I wish I knew exactly what it was that I did that helped me to discover this, but I don't know. I've got no idea. But all I know is that it works, and I can see the results, and I can see the results now. And all those years ago, when we used to go on holiday with my parents, and they could only afford to stay in a bed and breakfast, and now I can stay in a hotel like this, and that's not, I'm not sort of bragging about this because anybody can do this. It's the big problem was that it was a belief. Beliefs are everything, and my parents didn't really see a place like this as somewhere they could have afforded to stay or whatever. That's somewhere where they would have stayed. But I changed. I changed that. I changed the way I thought. Now, I remember sort of in the early 2000s, I saw a ship. There was a ship called the Queen Mary 2, the Cunard cruise ship, and it had just been launched. And I was watching on a TV. It was a maiden voyage, and there was all these people on the ship. And I thought, wow, there must be just that ship is full of rich people, full of really fortunate people to be on that ship. But I started to look at it and started to, I got a brochure and read about it, and I thought, this isn't necessarily out of my reach. The prices are more expensive than a normal cruise, but they're not too expensive. I could afford that. So a few years later, about 5 years later, I went on a Caribbean cruise on that ship, and I've probably done 5 cruises since then. And you know, from the time when I thought that that's not for me, it's for rich people and that sort of thing, and then 5 years later I was on it, and I've been on it a number of times since. It was complete rubbish what I was thinking. Those things are not just for rich people. Yeah, there's some rich people on there. They have the top duplex cabins and they're paying sort of 10, 20,000 pound a cruise or whatever. But you don't have to pay that much, and that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people get into. It's just assuming that something isn't for them, assuming they're a normal person, assuming that they can't do that, assuming that isn't them, that will never be that. The mindset is wrong. They have the wrong mindset. And the mindset needs to be fixed. It needs to be changed to achieve more things in life and change any problems that you have. And, everybody has problems, but, why do people not know about things like this? Why do people not know that by changing a mindset, you can change your life? And a lot of it is a culture thing, I think. People don't understand because it's not tangible. It's difficult to prove it through science. So the belief there isn't really there because you can't really see it. You go to a gym, you can see the gym, you can see the equipment in the gym, or you go running or you're cycling or whatever. You can see that. You can see the change in your body, and that's a tangible thing. You can see it. But your mind is an intangible thing. It's invisible almost. The only person who can really see your mind is yourself. And over a period of time, when your mind changes and people get to know more about you, and they can see you changing, but it's a very slow and gradual process. So it's not like the gym. And I think that's why people don't recognize that you can work with your mind and you can change your mind. So, why is your mind? Why are people's minds like the way they are? Well, the human mind was developed in many years ago in caveman times, and it was preoccupied by survival. And yeah, caveman times seem a long time ago, but in the grand scheme of evolution, it weren't that long ago. So the human mind is still completely preoccupied by survival. In your caveman, you have a mammoth chasing after you. Have to run. You have to get out of its way. You have to find somewhere to survive. And these days, it's not as important. In most countries, the world is a much safer place not to have that survival instinct turned on all the time. And the survival instinct, what's it doing? It's causing the mind to look for negative things, to look for danger, to look for things that are not right. And it's focusing on those things. And it's doing that because it's a protection mechanism. It wants to protect you. So it's looking for anything that might be danger, anything that's not right. And, it's evolved certainly in the Western world, it's evolved not from something for survival. It's evolved into something that looks for negative things. It looks for negativity. And that's why people are so negative. And that's one of the most important things to try and change your mind, to get that out of your mind, to get the survival thing. I mean, yes, sometimes you need it, of course we do, but most of the time we don't. Most of the time we're in a fairly safe environment. So we have to try and change that. Now, changing a mindset, changing the way you think, changing your beliefs, it's not easy. It takes some work, but it's not impossible. And why is it not easy? It's because the mind, the protection mechanism the mind has, is that it rebels against anything you try to change. Because if you're trying to change something in the mind of things, the mind's seeing this and thinking, what's this? What's he trying to do? No, we don't like this. This is unfamiliar, and tries to reject it. It's a protection mechanism because the mind doesn't really know what's good and what's bad. It just knows what it's been told. So we have to try and get past that protection mechanism to make some sort of a change to the mindset. So, we all know that small children learn things really, really easily and really quickly. Why is that? Because when somebody's born, yes, you have your genetics. Your genetics affect the way people are to a large degree. But it's like buying a new computer. The computer is blank, and it has no software. It has nothing in it, and it only starts to learn what you want it to do if you actually put some software in there. You put a program in, or you start putting data into the computer. That's when it starts to do what you want it to do. And the human mind is no different. from when we're born, even in the womb, we're listening and we're taking things in, and that is when our mind starts to get programmed. The programs and our experiences in life, what we see, what we hear, what we experience, that goes into the mind and it creates our mindset. It creates the type of person that we are. So, when I was at school and I was getting bullied and that sort of thing, that was all bad experiences that was going into my mindset. And that was all creating my mindset. And that was going to shape my life for many years to come. So yeah, it's impossible to avoid negative experiences, especially when there's so many negative people around. It's impossible to avoid them. It's impossible to avoid bad experiences sometimes. You can't sometimes change what happens to you, but you can change the way you think about it. So how does the mind work? I mean, the mind has two pieces to it. It has a conscious mind, which is the part that we think about every day, and it has a subconscious mind. So if you can liken it to an iceberg, the conscious mind is the part that's on top, the smaller part, and the larger part is the subconscious mind. That's below the surface. That's the part of the mind that we don't see. Now, the subconscious mind is the most powerful part of the mind because that's where all of our beliefs, all of our memories, all of our experiences, and everything that we had in our life sit in there. And the subconscious mind controls what happens with the conscious mind. So when we have a conscious thought, that conscious thought usually started somewhere in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is like the driver of that. So this is one of the reasons why you can't just change the belief by telling your conscious mind something and expecting it to change like that. It's not as easy as that. You've got to access your subconscious mind. You've got to change the programming in there. And the older you get, the more bad experiences or wrong experiences or experiences you don't like that's in the subconscious mind, the more experiences, the people you've met, the negative people, the toxic people, and that sort of thing. It's all sitting in your subconscious mind and it's causing your mindset. It's causing your programming. So the longer it goes and the more it goes in there, it's harder to get it changed. It's harder to reprogram that. And it's a bit like an old computer with a lot of stuff in there that isn't what you want, and that starts slowing down. It starts not working properly. It doesn't do the things that you wanted to do. And the mind's exactly the same. The mind starts slowing down. It starts doing things, or it's causing you to do things or think of things and think in a way you don't want to think about because of that. So you have to change what's in your subconscious mind. You have to change that programming. You have to change the mindset. You have to change the way it is you think. And if you can do this, you can do literally anything. But so many people don't do this because, so many people are unhappy in their life or whatever. And then you tell them, try to give them some advice on what to do and how they can change their life and how they can change, make things better, but they don't do it. So why is it? Why is it that people are not willing to do these things? Why is it that people rebel against any sort of advice you give them? Well, one of them is a protection mechanism. I just talked about the survival thing. Well, there's another thing as well. People, maybe people are having financial problems and they have no money, they're in debt and that sort of thing, and they're not enjoying life because of that. So you can give them advice and tell them, well, you need to do this every day, you need to do that every day, you need to read this book, you need to watch these videos, and to them it's alien what you're saying. So it's pushing them out of their comfort zone. They're not comfortable about doing all these things. They're not comfortable about trying to think differently. They're not comfortable about wanting to take in new concepts and ideas that makes no sense to them. So it's making them uncomfortable. So actually, they're more comfortable being uncomfortable with their current situation than they are, or should I say, they're more comfortable being uncomfortable with the current situation than they are taking in all these new concepts, these new ideas, and the work they've got to do, because that is even more uncomfortable to them than just continuing to be in debt, continuing to be unhappy, because they're used to that. That's something they know. That's something they understand, and that is their discomfort is their comfort zone, if that makes sense. So that's another reason why it doesn't happen. And often I see people with problems in life, and I think, well, it's pretty obvious what that problem is. It's pretty obvious to me how you could change it. So I try to help them. No, not unless somebody asks for help, because 9 times out of 10 you try to help somebody, they don't want help. They're not interested. They haven't got the motivation to do it. So, and this is one of the reasons why I make these videos, because I figure that the people watching these videos are the people who's interested in making changes to their lives, people who wants to make a difference, people who's willing to put the work and the effort into it. So, and that's what it takes, because it's not something you can do once and your whole mindset changes. It doesn't do that. To change your mindset, it's an ongoing process. It's a lifelong process. It's never finished. You can never get to be 100%. There's always things you can improve. There's always ways that you can get better. There's always things that you can do that maybe didn't work before, but will work in the future. So you've got to be willing to put the effort in. These days it's so easy because we have the internet. The internet is a brilliant thing. There's so much out here on YouTube. So many different videos from lots of different people. One of the things, find somebody on YouTube, whether it be myself or somebody else, somebody who you can relate to, somebody who resonates with you. There's people out there. I mean, people I like watching is a guy called Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's very good. He's very spiritual, which is not so much me, but it is very interesting, some of the things he says. Tony Robbins is very, very well known. He's probably the biggest name in self-improvement in the world. Some people are not into his style. I didn't used to like his style at one time, but now I do. He says a lot of things that make a lot of sense to me. Another guy, a German guy called Eckhart Tolle, he's very, very soft and gentle. He's quite funny as well, and he's his own sort of way. There's so many people out there. This is just one or two or three examples of the hundreds, probably thousands that are out there. So find some people that you like the style of, that you can relate to. Watch the videos, buy their programs if you want, read the books, and start doing it like that. You have to find methods as well that work for you. So, to change your mindset, you need practical techniques. You need to find something that works for you. And there's lots of different ways of doing it. There's no right way or wrong way. There's some ways that work better for one person, other ways that don't work so well. You've got to find which one or which ones work best for you. And they're the things you've got to practice. And you've got to be dedicated to it. You've got to work on it every day in some way, maybe only 10 or 20 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be, like 2 or 3 hours a day. It doesn't have to be like that. 10 or 20 minutes a day is going to make way more difference than doing nothing. And it's not going to happen in a week, a month, 2 months even. It's going to take longer than that, but gradually you'll see incremental changes happening. Sometimes it's so gradual you don't even notice they're happening, but when you look back in the past, you think, oh yeah, well that's different, and I wouldn't have done that in the past. And then one day you manage to do something that you would never have been able to do before, then that's when the penny really drops. You think, yeah, this really is making a difference. But you can't give up. You've got to keep on with it. So if there's something you want to change about yourself, whether it be, you don't like your job, you don't like your partner, you don't like your life, if you have negative thoughts all the time, if you're angry all the time, if you don't like your body, if you're feeling fit all the time, even if you're unhealthy all the time, it's a whole new subject, what the mind can do for the body. There's some really fantastic information and books out there. Your mind definitely influences your body and has some really, really strong control over your health and your body. So, don't think that your mind can't help your body, because it definitely can do. So the point of this video is by way of an introduction, asking you to have a look at yourself and what you can do to change your mindset, what you can do to improve your life. So decide where you want to start. What do you want to change? Try something, something small for a start, and build up. Sit down and make a list of everything that you're not happy with your life, everything that you would like to change, and maybe start off small, take 2 or 3 smaller things, and but you need to work out where you're going. You need to work out what it is you need to change. So if you think, well, I haven't got enough money, how much money do you want? Do you just want another few thousand, few 100,000, few million even? The mind, the subconscious mind doesn't judge, and it doesn't look at reality and think, well, that's not possible. The subconscious mind will do what you tell it to do. It doesn't question. So, don't hold back with some of your goals and some of the things you want to achieve. So just decide what it is you want, make some small goals for yourself, and using the methods and things that you find in books on the internet here, and then start working on those things. But, I'm going to make a lot of videos going forward. I'd be interested in any comments you want to put down below about things you might want me to cover. But there's a lot of information on this, and I really would like to help people out there. I like people to get some sort of benefit out of these videos. So if you like what you've been watching, then like or subscribe to the video. Put your comments down below. Yeah, I'm still in this really nice hotel in Houston, Texas. You never been to Houston, Texas? It's a pretty big city. It's it's about, I think, about 4 million people living here. Temperatures have been around about 40 degrees Celsius. It's been pretty hot, but it's been a good time. But I want to try and do these videos some interesting places. I don't want to sort of sit in my office at home with a blank wall behind me all the time. So you can see the lift. Where is it? There, going up and down. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, that's all for this video, and see you on the next one.